All right, welcome everyone to Design Thinking in AI, what Design Thinking AI could be. We're your hosts today, but this is really supposed to be a discussion with all of us. I'm Justin Connect and my colleague here, David Townson. We're from an organization called What Could Be, and I'll talk about how this all came about. But I wanted to set some ground rules first for us. I love this quote, be kind, be useful, be fearless. So be helpful and kind today. Let's use chat to communicate. Please stay on mute. If you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you and you can speak. Feel free to leave your video off. I know that we're all kind of tired of being on video calls majority part of the day, so feel free just to kind of listen in. And remember, we're just trying to create a safe space. A couple disclaimers. This is meant to be informal, so don't expect a hugely polished performance here. If you want to present something in an informal way, please do that as well. Don't think that you need to have something polished. This is a prototype. This is the first time that we've got a group of people together. It's great to see a bunch of people participating. And mainly this is for learning. I'll talk about how this came about, but David and I are really interested in accelerating our learning in this space and sharing experiments. And really what we wanted to do was start a community of people that might want to get together on a regular basis and kind of share what we were up to. Because like a lot of you, we were a bit stuck when we were talking about how to get started with integrating AI into our work and how we might spin up an event. So of course, we turned to AI. We were having a meeting and we were kind of turning around in circles a bit. And we turned to Bing and we asked, Bing was using Bing Chat. And so for some of you that don't know what Bing Chat is integrated into the Edge browser, and we were using Bing Chat in creative mode. It gives you access to the GPT-4 language model for free. We can talk about some differences in that, but David and I were in a meeting and said, hey, what if we spun up an event where we had people for about 30 minutes and we wanted to exchange some stories about how they were using AI? Could you draft copy for an event like that? And it did. And this is the copy that it came up with. We asked it to pull together an agenda for a 30-minute event, and it did that. And we asked it to give us some tips on how we can make this event successful. And we followed a lot of those tips and used that copy that was generated in order to promote the event. So that we promoted the event in advance with social media. It wrote the post. It helped us develop the title. It helped us work on the structure that we were doing. And we will follow up afterwards with a video description and hopefully an AI summary of the event. So we used it to get kind of unstuck, and we hear a lot of people that are using it to kind of get beyond that blank page type of event. The other thing that happened in the design thinking community, which happened along the same time, was this. So there was a celebration of 20 years of the Double Diamond. And we were really intrigued by a question that was asked at the very end of that event of how can AI be used within the Double Diamond? And for some of you that aren't familiar with the Double Diamond, David's going to talk a bit more about it, but it's a very simple representation of the design process happening in 4 stages. And a lot of what we do is talking about how to use methods and approaches at different stages of that design process. And we feel that there's a lot of opportunity for AI to be used within the design process in general, and particularly if you prescribe to a process like the Double Diamond. Bing has asked us to be interactive and to invite other speakers. I am curious, it is the first call. We have a 10-minute presentation that David's going to do, but I was curious, is there anyone else on the call that would like to share something today? 10 minutes of how you've been utilizing AI in your process or your design process or the creative process. No pressure. We're not going to fill all 45 minutes of space, so maybe we'll have a little more time for discussion at the end. Is this when I'm supposed to take a drink, David? Wait for people to.
I can share this voice transcription and blog post writing tool that I've been using, or we can just discuss at the end.
Fantastic. We will give you 10 minutes to share. That would be great, Jay-Z. Thanks so much.
Okay.
And I'm curious, how often do people on this call use AI in your work? Can you let us know in the chat? So Are you a 1? You're not really using it. 2, you're kind of occasionally using it as opportunities arrive. 3, are you using it all the time? Just trying to get an idea of where our audience is at. Two and a half, 1, 2, 1. 3 or 5. Yep. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'd say I like the 2.5. I feel kind of like that as well. And I think some of the things that David and I will often talk about is I would just start using it. I wouldn't worry about how you actually use it. And that's the main thing that started working for us was just starting to use it in all instances and just seeing what type of results you can get from it. Thanks for that. Without further ado, David, since we're here to kind of share some examples of how we're using it, would you be willing to present some of the stuff that you've been experimenting with, and then we'll give Jay-Z 10 minutes of floor time? You're on mute.
I know how to use my technology.
You do.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks, Justin. Hopefully you can all see my slides now. So yeah, Justin highlighted this already, and you might all be familiar, you might not necessarily, but the double diamond process, which effectively is this simple model where on the left hand side the diamond is showing a wide exploration of a problem before focusing in and defining the right problem to tackle, before then widening out your exploration as you develop solutions, before focusing in and converging on the best solution to deliver. So hence the double diamond, because it looks like 2 diamonds. And we can go in and talk in more detail about this if for those that are interested to know more detail behind it on another call or offline, and there's lots out there. But whatever process you're using, you need to think strategically about the methods that are going to help you get there. And successful navigation comes from considering which methods you use based on where you're trying to, what you're trying to achieve and where you are in the journey. And the right combination of methods can then act as kind of stepping stones, to help get you across. And one method we felt would be good to explore for AI is all about helping turning problems into questions to enable idea generation. So you've done your research, you've got some insights, and you want to start generating ideas, framing that up as a good question. And you might be familiar with this phrase, how might we? It's what we refer to as a statement starter. I know some of the people on the call will know about that particular method. But when you've identified a challenge through research, you ask a question that begins with the words how might we, to invite broad exploration. So following research with, say, people who've got diabetes, they're often having to wait for the insulin in their fridge to reach room temperature. You might say, hey, how might we eliminate the need for room temperature insulin for people with diabetes? And when we teach people in person how to develop the capability to write these statements, we give them a structure that can yield consistently good results. And it's a language-based prompt, so it's a language-based prompt to a group of humans who then use that prompt to produce a language-based output. So we thought it might be quite a good test case, if you like. And the method can take a little time, maybe 20 or 30 minutes in a workshop. The quality of the output from people can vary quite a lot. And some people, despite recognizing the value of having a good how might we statement, they're maybe just unable to produce them when they need to. They might require more time and effort than the person has. So we felt that was something that AI might be able to help with. So I started doing some experimentation with lots of iterations with ChatGPT, as you can see on the screen there now. And I spent a lot of time tweaking the language, getting the words right. That's why it's scrolling past. I don't expect you to be able to read all that. But I was really exploring, in the way that I would when I'm prompting humans in a workshop about the precision of language. So for example, asking a computer to produce a bold statement produces a statement in a darker color, a darker, heavier font. It doesn't produce a more ambitious more ambitious statement. So simple things, but things about the precision of language was really sort of important. And so I embedded this prompt that I developed into some code. I'm not a coder, but I found a tutorial. I just tried it out, and then that became a prototype tool on our website, which some of you might have already seen. And this enables people to put in their research insights and challenges rather than having to think about the creation and structure of the prompt as an additional step. We wanted to get as close to the point of need as we could. I have some insights. What questions can I generate with that? And this is what we created. So you can go to our website and you can have a little play around with that if you like. We posted it on LinkedIn. We got many people commenting on it and sharing their experiences. A particular favorite of ours was Dr. Nick Fine, who's on the screen here, who didn't have an insight to mind straight away, but he did put in the first verse to Stairway to Heaven. And we particularly enjoyed, because it's talking about somebody who's in the store looking for things. It came back with, how might we create an environment that encourages people to reach their dreams? And in a workshop, if somebody said that, you'd kind of go, wow, that's a great how might we statement. That's really going to expand our thinking when we come to generating ideas, We gathered up all those comments and did some affinity clustering, another method that maybe AI can help with at some point. And the overarching headline of all these different methods that have been clustered is written in the big statement in the middle. And this was actually produced by Miro's AI summary of all the comments. So I didn't write this statement, AI wrote this statement. That what we've created is a useful tool for generating well-framed questions quickly and easily. Users appreciate its simplicity and ability to generate different perspectives on problems. However, some express concerns about over-reliance on AI tools in the creative process. And those are concerns like, issues to do with trust and ethics, and, is it going to take our jobs, and all of those kinds of things that you've perhaps come across, yourself as you've been thinking about AI. One of the little cluster areas you can see in the middle there that I've just blown up from some of the comments were people asking, how might this tool that we've created help more broadly than just generating the how might we question? So people were saying things like, hey, could you help us generate the insights in the first place? Could you help us go further back into the problem space, or could you help us go further forward into the solution generation space? And I think the quick answer to that is yes, but that wasn't the intent of that tool. We've sort of defined one very particular method. We've worked with one particular method, but we do know that there is huge scope. If I go back to that little sequence of stepping stones, these methods across the double diamond, it's definitely the case that there are methods that help you better understand the problem and size up the challenge, by asking why and how. And there are methods that help you identify all the different people, for example, that you need to talk to. So generating a list of people that maybe have some sort of a stake in the situation or opportunity you're looking for. And we've done some experiments. I'm not going to take any more airtime right now to show them to you. We can show them offline, but we can definitely use AI to help, start to help us think about these different aspects of methods in the problem space. And I guess the final thing I wanted to summarize, and on the right here is an image from a different tool some of you might have come across called Midjourney. Imagine it helps you imagine imagery, based on prompts. So Midjourney has produced an image here of AI being used in the design process. So I didn't create that; it's just an AI generated thing. But other things that we're learning are, I think finding specific areas to add value is helpful. So a bit like I've talked about, dig into a specific example, such as, generating particular questions. AI is about helping our work, not doing it all for us. I think there's quotes doing the round about, will AI replace us? Well, AI won't replace you, but somebody using it may replace you. Justin has another quote I'll let him share later. Think about these issues of ethics and trust. Can you trust what it's saying? That's one of the concerns. Is it ethical to use it? Prompt with clarity and purpose so that you don't get bold text, for example. Something we're really interested in, I think human-centered design helps us eliminate bias from the design process. AI is known for having biases built in because of the data it's pulling from. So look for opportunities where you can eliminate those biases. And then 2 final ones. Do not try and keep up with all of the AI progress. It's impossible. You will be staring at articles on LinkedIn for the rest of your life. So find things that resonate with you and try things out. And then our final thought is share, learn, and collaborate like we're trying to do today. So we'd really welcome any ongoing conversations about what I've just shared, or indeed anything else you're interested to know about. I think that's it, Justin. Back to you.
Thanks, David. Jay-Z, can you clarify your question? What's the difference between the human how might we and the AI how?
Oh yeah, sorry, there was a typo. The AI how might we? So what was better about the AI how might we? Was it broader or had, you know, different perspectives?
Yeah, so yes to both of those. I think one of the things that happens when you have people in a room and you do your very best to give them the structure and give them the prompt and encourage them to follow that structure, they don't always do that. That's just a fundamental thing, I suppose. So if you are in a way ensuring that the AI will always start with a strong verb, let's say, you know, eliminate rather than reduce, we talk about, you know, and then think about the context and think about the person, you get that all the time. And then I think it's also down to humans. It's like some things we say in workshops, sometimes you just get a great how might we statement off the back of some research. It occurs to you what that might be. Some people are just naturally better at it than others. And if you give a structure, they get better at it. But sometimes it just takes time. What we found with this tool is it just consistently produces solid how might we statements, you know, in less than 10 seconds rather than in half an hour, which can be helpful. We're not saying it should replace people. Look at the content that it comes back with and then adapt that, a bit like Justin said with our text for this event. Does that answer your question, JZ?
Yeah, I want to use it. I hope you'll post the link.
Yeah.
We'll drop it in here, or just go to the What Could Be site and click on Ask Better Questions and you can have a play.
Yeah, one other thing someone said in an event I think that David was at is what they're seeing is that what AI can do, say, during a design thinking session is clearly much better than what any beginner could do. So like when we're teaching people, say, design thinking methods for the first time and they're beginning to apply them, the how might we statements that are generated by that tool are clearly a lot better than someone who's just learning to do how might we statements. And as David said, I find it, you know, a lot of us, as much as we talk about collaboration and working in groups, we often find ourselves working on our own or inviting that tool into, you've got a 3-person group and becomes a 4-person group with AI, or me working on my own and generating how might we statements. And what I found is using these tools as kind of like my partner or my assistant that's working alongside me, because a lot of work ends up being a bit solo. Coco, you had a question.
Yeah, more like I just wanted to add to the conversation. So in my experience, I'm a contractor for Sherwin-Williams, and part of our big initiative is to scale design thinking, inside the organization. And in our workshops, one of the challenges is just being new to design thinking approaches, tools, and methodologies. And so when we have them kind of create their how might we statement, like it slows us down. And more time is spent on just trying to get it right, trying to craft the perfect statement. And I've noticed that like when I have used the AI tool like ChatGPT, it's just a lot quicker. Like, so for me, I think it helps with the speed of things. Whereas like you kind of were saying, like it does take some time for people to get familiar with crafting that how might we statement. So I certainly like to use it as a tool for like speed to kind of help at least get some ideas going. And when people have like some examples, they're like, oh, okay, like I see it now, like now I can try and, attempt to kind of create my own how might we statement based on what examples, you guys have are showing us.
Yeah, thank you, Coco. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the space I think that we're all playing in, which is about, it can be quite daunting to say, hey, so we've told you how to do it, go on. And you've got this blank sheet in front of you. There was a guy who's in the West Coast in San Francisco. His name's Doug. He's an ethnographer, and his surname is Luke. How amazing is that, right? His name's Douglas Luke, and he's an ethnographer. But he was saying one of the brilliant opportunities that we often have come across ourselves is to get into the heart of a particular group of people and work with them, because they know the problems. And he was saying, but then when you get to that point of how do we craft the statement, he says that's where they struggle. So that's when he tried it, and he said, I was getting better output, quicker, and it helped us get into the next bit, So I think you use it with a degree of with a degree of judgment, I suppose.
I'm curious if we will take all this newfound efficiency and give ourselves more time, or if we will just work even harder to fill up the time that we've gained the efficiency back from. That's the curious question that I have. But anyway, JZ, you said you wanted to share something. I would love to give you 10 minutes to walk through something.
Sure.
And I think I probably need to give you, there you go. So you should be able to share your screen now.
I'm just looking for my browser.
Take your time.
Okay. Do you see this gray website?
We do.
All right. So this is my podcast, Founder Design Thinking. And when people search, this is an SEO marketing problem. So when they haven't attended it live and they want to go back and find an episode or a quote, what I've been doing is using this other tool called Voicepen.ai. And so it's really good for blog generation. I think their value prop, or why they've become profitable without any investment, is that it takes a human couple of hours, like a content writer, a couple of hours to distill a podcast into a blog post with like a central thesis. But then for like a non-writer, I'm a product manager, so it would probably take me like a day, over time with revisions, to make all those like tight paragraphs and really want to share it. So what this tool does is that it takes a file. I already have an account. Let me go into my account. These are sample files, but then my files come extracted from StreamYard. The audio gets extracted. So this one was from the last podcast, and I had already imported the audio MP3 file, and it comes up with these like 10 topics that it could possibly be around. And that's where I really like the human training of the model, because I've worked in machine learning before. And so the interaction between the human and the model is really important. And here, I think I chose this users' lack of confidence and creative expression on social platforms, because that was really weird. I was like, that's not what we said, but I wanted to see why the AI thought we said it. And it was about like users not being comfortable posting, because in the like creator, non-creator economy, 1% of people post, the creators, and 99% are the non-creators, they lurk. And this was a topic about why people don't post, but we didn't talk about that at all. So it's funny because it was really well written and completely like eloquent, but it had nothing to do with what we actually said. And then what I did choose was like, I think one of these, disrupting the art world, to put artists and consumers at the center. And this is, I think this is the article that it wrote. So what happens now is that I have two versions, like I have a third version that I liked as well. So the second version and third version, I submitted to the guest on my podcast for approval, because then they get to choose how they want their company to be represented in the media. Especially now that they have investors, it's very important, right? Like what topic and what keywords they are associated with in SEO and in marketing and in search. So I really like this tool because it gives me and the guest additional SEO that I never would have put the time in. Like I never would have spent a whole day writing this article, because I'm like, I like video and in-person impromptu. I'm not the type of person that like spend like a whole day on my own, like writing this, although I should have. So I'll just end there for questions or comments.
Yeah, I'm curious, how much do you go in and edit the articles afterwards?
Yeah, so this UI, they're relaunching it because it was very confusing. So these are the 3 versions, right? And then you can regenerate up to a 4th version. So I'm probably the CEO is probably gonna, let's say, choose version 3. And then in version 3, there was a lot of spelling mistakes, like the company was misspelled. And so there are common, I guess, I don't have to edit it very much. So the answer is like very little, because once I choose the topic, that's the main editing I have to do. And that's a very like powerful but light amount of effort. So I think the editing is mostly around just some like misspellings and what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So in talking to the CEO, she doesn't use the edits to retrain the model, because in text and words, there's so many variations. It's actually not helpful for the model to know what my specific variation is. And I know there are other like flywheels and other models where it really relies on the edits in the data, but not for this particular product.
David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thank you for sharing this, Jay-Z. I'm curious, it's kind of related to Justin's question about editing, but and it's hard to give an exact answer, but I'm curious, your gut feel, the end-to-end process, how much quicker is it to work this way versus how you would have done it without the tool?
Yeah,
How
I
much
think
time do you think you're saving?
the main thing is that I wouldn't have done it without this tool. Like, And end to end, I think it would save me probably like 8 hours or 3 hours per day over like 2 weeks. And that's the main savings. That I hate the cycle time, right? I can't do it in one sitting. I need someone else to edit and revise and approve. And it's not just 8 hours, then it's almost like 16, because each of those switches in your attention span really like deter from all the other productivity that I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah, thank you.
Laura, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I'm just curious. You have I see the 3 versions there. Are those versions are those based on variables that you input, or are those just sort of randomly generated variations?
They were random. They were the first screen.
And then if you say regenerate in that case, is that just kind of giving you another random version?
It just gives me the 10 again. So let's see if I say no. Well, I think I have to pick one of these.
I see. I see. Cool.
And I have, when I've used not necessarily this tool, but other tools, you can ask it to rewrite or focus in on a particular part of the writing, and it will do that, like focus more on this part of the writing. David and I, and a lot of the writing that we do, we want things to be easily understandable by a wide audience. So a lot of times I'll use a prompt, something like rewrite this so a 10-year-old could understand it. And it's very curious to see how it makes the language much simpler. You can even ask it, since I know that there's some people on here that have used the particular methods, the particular Luma methods. If you do like a broad agenda, for example, for a design thinking session, and then ask it to replace all the activities with activities from a certain system, it will do that as well with like references and links to those things. So it's really interesting, the revisions that you can do in the writing using a tool like this, or asking it for other variations, or just asking it to simplify language or make it a summary or make it longer or zero in on these points. If I generate a long list of things like the how might we questions or something like that, I find it very curious to ask the AI to pick 3 differentiated versions and then do variations on those. Like there's I think the iteration is pretty interesting. David and I, if you run the same prompt, it will usually just naturally do variations. Like I find it interesting that the divergence in the language models is pretty fascinating. Like I think at one point they were thinking that creatives wouldn't have any issues whatsoever with AI because creative is so human. And what seems to be happening is like the variation that can happen in the AI is pretty fascinating. Like it's kind of almost meant for creative work, like, or at least generating ideas and variations kind of infinitely, tirelessly. So that's been pretty interesting.
Can you share like or show that like the platforms you used or how you retrained?
Sure. Well, the ones that I've used are basically the Chat GPT interface and Bing, and just asking it to rewrite the input that it's had. I mean, it's as simple as asking, "That's great. Could you rewrite this? Could you include this topic?" Maybe since we've got a few minutes left, maybe I can do that next time, and we could do like, "Hey, let's create an agenda for a workshop session," and then go through that whole kind of process of kind of replacing some of the methods, perhaps.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Anyone else have questions or comments? It's about 40 minutes past the hour. I have a question, and I have one funny thing to hopefully leave us on, at least make us laugh.
So I guess my big concern is, whenever you see something that appears to give you something for free to make things like super easy, you're often fooled, whether it's investing and wealth creation or diet and exercise, anything that sort of seems too good to be true probably is, right? And I think, with a lot of this work, there's something to the work that you can't skip past. And it's that thing where like we sometimes think of the artifact as the valuable thing, the thing you leave with or create at the end is the valuable thing, but it's really the activity to create it is the valuable thing, right? You got to like walk through it together, and the alignment that you have and the empathy that you have and all these other great things that help you thrive as a team and do great work is a product of the activity. It's not a product of the artifact. Right, the artifact, like the residue at the end. And so, yeah, so you get where I'm going. Like, I wonder, like, if something is producing something for us, just creating instantly these beautiful artifacts that appear to be the thing that we create at the end, and we have them so much better and faster, that we've solved something. But in a way, we've sort of skirted past the hard work that's really the valuable thing. Like, we can't have AI go on vacations for us, because it's not about having beach pictures. It's like doing the thing. And I worry like we're going to be so thrilled with these wonderful beach pictures that we think we've had these wonderful vacations, and we really haven't.
I agree completely, in the sense that, and isn't it funny how we all talk about generative AI and it making things, and I see people going, create for me over the weekend. I created a 15th century adventure game of, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, did anyone ask for that? Like, that's great that it did it, but like, what is that like based on insight? And it was the perfect segue, John. I think you're probably talking, this was the funny thing I wanted to show, was I saw this the other day, which I thought was great. And like you replace
that's hilarious.
yeah, isn't that perfect? And then in the sense that you could place with what they need. So I think design to replace designers with AI, clients will need to accurately describe, or users will need to accurately describe, you know, what they need. And even people that we're designing products and services for, I don't think actually know what they need. But I am excited about, and the kind of adoption curve of a lot of these tools, they've seen are almost in direct proportion to some of the people that are highly expert and in highly paid positions, and the expertise of being able to use these tools in conjunction with that, I think is really exciting. I don't know what that sound is. Does anyone know what that sound is? So I have one last question for you. I could put it up on the screen, but should we do this again? Yes or no? And why or why not? Could you put it into the chat, your answers of yes or no, and why? And which one of you is going to present next time? We can broadcast this even more widely. We didn't stack the audience with friends, by the way, so they all showed up on their own volition.
Yeah, we're interested in, we love our friends, but we want to make new friends as well. Thanks, Coco. And John and Laura. I think these tensions that, John, you highlighted particularly at the end are really, really important for us to start to grapple with and to discuss. You know this because of our overlap from Luma times, but you know, sometimes we say, hey, time box the divergent activities when we're coming up with lots of ideas. You only get 10 minutes. And AI is dead good for that. Take your time on the convergent activities when you really need to have that human discussion and really understand what was meant. I think that's just an ongoing balance to be mindful of.
So JZ, I'll send. Yeah, that is definitely something we'd like to do. And as a follow up, one of the guests we were hoping to have was a friend that some of you might have run into. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Benjamin DeHarent? Is that his last name? Ben?
Yeah, that's about as good as your French is going to get.
Yeah, exactly. Pardon my French.
he's on vacation, but he's done some amazing experiments, and he's up for coming and sharing. So he's the guy that did the Google design sprint in 4 hours instead of 5 days on his own, with 7 different roles, all played by AI. Mind-blowing stuff he's done.
Yeah, there's some really interesting studies coming out that as much as there is bias in the data, it's just as biased as the general population is. And so there's been some interesting stuff around doing actual research around product preferences and pricing, and these large marketing studies that they've been seeing comparable results to what they're doing with AI versus like actually it represents the general population. So that's kind of curious too. Like I'm curious to see how that plays out. But thanks so much. It's 45 past the hour. Thanks for taking part in our inaugural session. And we look forward to getting together again. And next time, bring a friend.
This was amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thanks all.
David,
Bye.
can we
Ciao.
stay in the call a little bit longer?
Yeah. Let me stop the recording here.